To kick things off. So my name's Skylar. For those of you that don't know me, VP of Marketing here at iGuide. We host these master classes every 2 to 3 weeks. Today's conversation is going to be a bit different. Very excited. So um, everyone here likely is well aware PMRE is less than 1 month away. So very exciting. And I'm joined by two guests today. Brandon Cooper with PMRE. So the founder himself has joined us, as well as Reed Fish with Upmarket Media and Upmarket Podcast. Brandon, Reed, you guys welcome to say a word or a couple words if you'd like.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I've never been on a webinar before, so I'm ready to let loose.
You're normally Reed, you're normally on the other side, hosting and doing the Q&A
Yeah.
portion. Tables have turned a bit.
Yes, I'm gonna go through the gauntlet here. You're gonna drag me through Brandon's studio. I think it's gonna be horrible.
So this is we had tour to PMRE. Essentially, we kicked it off in combination with both Upmarket and PMRE. Kind of in the spring. We gave away a camera. We also gave away 2 tickets. So we had 2 lucky winners that we're going to be bringing to PMRE this year. Thanks to iGuide. And want to have a conversation here today really about PMRE, what we're excited for. Upmarket and the Upmarket Pod has been interviewing some of the speakers and keynotes. I think Reed, you likely have some great insight, potentially some highlights that you want to share there. But Brandon, why don't we start with, for those that maybe aren't familiar with PMRE or interested but haven't attended in the past, can you take us just through a quick history of where things have come? And then maybe we can talk about 2024 and what's ahead for this year as we've moved venues. I think there's some new items there.
Yeah, for sure. So we started this thing back in 2019. There's a long story to it. Bottom line, I was doing workshops with Tony Colangelo, who most of you are familiar with, and he was my photography coach at the time. We did about 8 or 10 around North America, and the general feedback every single time was it's really nice to get into a room with like-minded people where you can really open up, share best practices, and not feel like you're going to leave that room and get stabbed in the back. It's not like in our industry, you can't really share. It's kind of lonely. We've talked about this. You can't really share with your competition in your market. So after about, like I said, 8 or 10 of those, it kind of hit me. I was like, you know what? I think there's a demand for this. This industry is really kind of popping off. What if we did something once a year, a little bit bigger, and tried to bring everybody together? So 2019, we took a chance. We set it up at South Point in Las Vegas. We had 5 amazing years there. We knew from day one it wasn't going to be home forever, but it set the stage. It really helped us build a foundation for the conference, earn some trust with the audience, bring people from around the world, and then literally from the day we signed that first deal, I was always looking for where our next home was going to be.
Sure.
So like I said, we had 5 years at South Point. We were sold out pretty much every year except for, COVID, sorry. So 2020, we had to go virtual for a year. And then 2021, it was a little iffy because COVID was still lingering. So other than that, we were always kind of around that 300 person mark, and it was kind of bursting at the seams. A lot of feedback we were getting was we need to find a bigger space. And to be completely honest with you, we never really felt like our venue matched our brand, which matched the culture that was being established with the conference. So when we found this new venue over at the Palms, and then we rebranded slightly a couple of years ago to PMRE, once we found this new venue with the new branding and the approach that we want to take, we kind of felt like everything fell into place. So we signed that deal prior to last year's conference, and then we had a really fun opportunity to go and film sort of a reveal video. And at the end of last year's conference, we sort of made it sound like we were maybe potentially shutting the doors. But in reality, it was just the old PMRE, sort of out with the old PMRE, in with the new. And here we are, literally, 3 weeks away from setting up shop at our brand new home at the Palms.
That's exciting. I attended my first PMRE last year. I was able to take in all that South Point has to offer and everything that
I'm laughing, you guys.
It comes along with it.
No, I saw Skylar there. He was, he was a South Point enjoyer. He was. I saw it.
I should have went bowling while I had the opportunity, but anyways, excited for the Palms this year. I mean, it looks like a fantastic venue. I think to your point, it's a great fit with PMRE and the brand that you've built. Reed, before we get too far in, why don't I give you an
Yeah.
opportunity to talk a bit about Upmarket in your podcast?
Sure. So I'm the CEO, very important, of Upmarket Media, which is a real estate media company based in Southern California. We are in Ventura County, so not LA. And I was a solo shooter for a long time. Had my own company doing real estate photography and video and 3D and all that stuff. And after the COVID year, it was just business was so crazy, and I was just like, I can't do this again. It was too busy, and so I approached my biggest competitor in the area and said, "Hey, let's merge our businesses." And he said, "Okay, let's do it." So we did that, and we became Upmarket Media. And then one of the first things we did after at the end of that first year was we decided to attend our first, at that time, PFRE, and we had just such a great experience. I mean, that was such a way to grow our business. We felt like we learned so much. So, and talking not only the presenters on stage, but networking with all the attendees, we learned so much. And I kind of struck up ultimately a conversation with Brandon, and he invited me the next year to present on stage. And at that time, I was very unknown in our industry, and I wasn't active in the Facebook groups or anything like that. And so I was like, wow, if I'm going to be on stage, I felt a lot of responsibility about that. And so I said, well, I want people to kind of know who I am. So let's start a podcast. So, and Brandon to do not do it. He was absolutely, that is the worst idea you've ever had. And I said, sorry, we've already done it. And then but we decided to make a podcast about how we're scaling our business. So our podcast is really focused on the business of real estate photography and media rather than, hey, what camera do you use? That kind of talk. So, and then we've been partnering since that first episode, really, with PMRE, and have just grown our relationship over the years, and we love it so much. And we're there as a sponsor this year, and we've been doing these episodes, and it's just been such a thrill and such an honor.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I've been following along. I think your guys' road to PMRE and the content they've been putting out through the summer has been fantastic, and I think giving a bit of a preview to what's to come in 2024. Brandon, if you have to highlight what are you most excited about going into this year?
Oh man, Reed always gets mad at me for talking and talking and talking, so I have to be careful here. But I the thing about Palms I'm most excited about is our ability to get more creative. Like I said, South Point had a lot of pros. It's really, without that facility and that venue, we would have no chance of being able to sort of build the foundation that we did. But it was very limiting. We had one room, one stage. If we wanted to do anything outside of that showroom, we were walking halfway across the world up an escalator. It was slow, tedious, and again, didn't really align with our overall brand. With Palms, the cool thing, there's a couple things. So number one, at South Point, it was like, I don't quote me, but 3,300 rooms or something like that. So we were kind of a blip on the radar, even though they treated us extremely well. With South Point or with Palms, there's only 720 hotel rooms, and we're taking up well over half the property for the entire time we're there. So you're going to bump into PMRE people, whether you like it or not. It's really neat to have a massive impact on a property rather than being one of 10 other events. So that's really cool. The second thing is the ability to get a bit more creative. Starting with the showroom, the production value in this showroom is staggering. It's way overkill, but that's kind of what we like. We're a room full of creatives, so we kind of want to put on a show. Go ahead, Reed.
Okay, I want to jump in there because that blows me away, because the production value at South Point for this conference was so good, and I've said it so many times. It's like when people hear you're going to go to a real estate media conference, they think it's that you're gonna you be in a ballroom with like crepe paper on the stage and a little TV or something, but that is not the
Yeah.
case. This is so high tech, such a great show. Yeah, I cannot wait to see what Brandon and Devin have in store for us here. And sorry to interrupt there, Brandon.
No, no problem. You're right, though. That's the thing. If I keep saying to people, if I could go back in time, I think I would change the name. I don't know if I would call it a conference, because we try to make it more of a show and a get together
100%.
for our industry, right? Again,
Yeah.
how do you put 350 creatives in a room and then just do, a ballroom with fold out chairs and a pop-up stage? It just doesn't really jive, right? Now, as the future comes, who knows where this thing will evolve to. We really do enjoy the creative, we enjoy the production. And with Palms, the showroom itself is amazing. It's kind of hard to put into words. People will just have to experience them for themselves. It gives us a lot of creative freedom to kind of do some fun stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really nice this year is right next door, we have the ability, we've created the PMRE lounge / sort of vendor alley. This is the first time in our history that we're going to have 2 rooms running simultaneously. So you can be in the showroom watching the actual speakers in real time, or you can be in the at the vendor lounge meeting vendors. If they, if they're there, they're going to be coming and going. They're each going to kind of run their booth the way that they want, but we're pumping a live stream into the Green Street. So it's turning that room into, or sorry, I have to back up. Green Street's the technical name. It's actually what Palms calls it. We've rebranded it for the event. So sometimes I go back and forth. I don't want to confuse people. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're calling it PMRE Lounge / Vendor Alley. We're going to pump a live stream in there. So it essentially becomes a satellite room. So in the past, if you had to duck out for a reason, go and make a phone call or catch up on some emails, you kind of had to go find a couch in the casino or a lounge to go sit at. Now you can just scoot over to the vendor lounge, and you'll still be able to hear what's going on stage, but you can grab a quiet seat, check some emails, make some phone calls. So that's really exciting. The other thing that's cool about that is gives our vendors an opportunity. We've gone back and forth on this in the past, all 5 years. The vendors have been in the main room, shoulder to shoulder with attendees, and they've always loved that. But at the same time, it's very limiting, because you don't want to get up in the middle of a presentation and start talking to a vendor or talking to a potential customer or an attendee. So we thought, well, let's move them over to a separate location. That way, if there's a session that's going on that someone's not overly keen on, they can step up, scoot out, no problem, go over to the lounge, talk with a couple vendors. And then we also have some designated time throughout the day to go over and spend some time, like where we literally shut the showroom down for an hour, go over 10, 15-second walk over to the next room and hang out with the vendors. So that's a cool big change for this year. And then the other 2 major changes. Number 1, we've always done lunch and learns, and they've been very, very popular, where a sponsor will do a free lunch and have an opportunity to connect with the audience, do some presenting, whatever it is that they see fit. But again, always been in a ballroom, 15 minutes away. The cool thing this year is we're up, instead of that, we're up on a 50 floor restaurant space with nice views of the city. So that in itself is kind of a cool experience. On that note, I think there is still a few spots left on those lunch and learns, so people can check it out at the website, pmreconference.com. And then the other major change this year is the party. So in the past, like I said, we've had that showroom. You come to the showroom, you see all the presentations, and then you leave for a couple hours, and then you come back to the showroom. We've redressed it, but it's a party now. And it has in the past been a party. We've hired bands and it's kind of been wild, and it's been loud and kind of a bit difficult to network. This year, we're changing everything. We're starting it earlier. We're providing a full dinner. It's up on the very top ballroom that has a convertible roof to the sky and an indoor-outdoor space with, I would argue, the best or second best view of the Las Vegas Strip in the entire city.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot more chill. It's going to be quieter. It's going to be all sort of angled towards the networking aspect of things. And then that way people can come, like I said, they don't have to leave site to go have dinner. They can just leave the conference from day one, freshen up, go up to the Moon Ballroom and have a nice dinner on us. The bar will be open. There will be some music, and it's just designed for networking. So all that being said, that's the thing I'm most excited about moving to Palms. It is, I hate this saying because it's kind of cliche, but it is literally from the showroom to the vendor lounge to the lunch and learns to the hotel rooms to the hotel itself to the restaurants on site to the location to the party. It is like a 10x across the board. We really feel like finally the venue, the building matches our brand and our culture.
Yeah.
The thing that we've always dreamed of for the last 5-6 years now kind of feels complete. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, any of the photos you shared, Brandon, I mean, the place looks, the venue's stunning. I think, you know, it's a perfect set and backdrop for PMRE this year. That's great. Reed, you've been having some conversations through the summer. Any highlights, standouts, anything you want to, speaker wise, you want to touch on?
Sure. you know, we've done, I don't know, I like 13 episodes with PMRE presenters.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm looking back, you know, like part of me hates learning, but then I also love learning. And so the ones where I've learned the most, I think we had Alexandra Abramian on just a few weeks ago, and her view on PR. We talked about PR and how we as real estate media professionals can use it. That was really illuminating. Brandon Barre was on, who's just a huge name in the hospitality photography world, who's going to be speaking on day 3. I mean, we had a great conversation about really what the difference between hospitality and just kind of residential real estate photography is. And then AI has been coming up. I just recorded one that's not out yet with Jenna Kadusek, who is kind of helping us with AI on our back end. And so I think it's been some interesting discussions about the future of where we are going as an industry. And that's really what I'm interested in. And the one person I haven't interviewed is myself, because I'm going to be on stage. So, we're doing all these interviewing the presenters, but I haven't interviewed myself.
Yes.
I'm fortunate enough I'm going to be the moderator for a panel, and it's on the future of our industry. And that, I think, to me, that's the whole ball game, is how is technology going to affect our industry, and how can we make sure that real estate media professionals are at the center of that, and that we are not, pushed aside. So that, to me, and we're gonna have a bunch of panelists, big names from our industry, from the companies that service our industry, are gonna be on there. And then I'm gonna don't worry, I'm gonna hold their feet to the fire.
I can only imagine you will. No, that's great. And then Kelsey Curtis, she's coming back. I know she was there last year. She did a fantastic presentation, personal brand photography, coming back as a host this year. Do I got that right?
That's right. Yeah, she'll be hosting the first 2 days, and then Tony Colangelo is going to take over the hosting duties for day 3.
Nice. For those, Brandon, this is the first year that you're added the third day. Typically it's 2 days. You've added a third day this year, Friday being a full day. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, sure. So that's something that's been on our mind for a while. We do surveys every year and have a really good engagement, which is nice. We get about 80% of the people that attend who come and thoughtfully fill out a feedback form, and 95% of the decisions that are made are based on the feedback that we've had from the audience from day one, whether it's the venue, the speakers, the agenda, the format, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in the past, I've always known that there's a portion of that audience that's either interested in dabbling in or just curious about what's beyond real estate, whether that is, and when I say beyond, I want to make it very clear, not saying it's better or worse, just saying it's different. Beyond real estate, in my mind, is, to me, real estate is traditional, sort of high volume shooting properties, marketing a property for a realtor for a short period of time, providing a service for that industry, and it's high turnover, it's high, like I said, high volume. Outside of that could be anything that's not that, in my mind, which is we've coined it commercial and corporate as like the umbrella. Essentially anything that's not hardcore day-to-day real estate. We've known for a long time that there's a lot of people in our room that attend this conference who, like I said, are dabbling in that, some that are curious about it. And I've kind of felt bad in the past because I've always sprinkled in a little bit of architecture or some commercial in the past to appease those folks. But as the industry and the event evolved together, it became quite clear there's a much bigger demand for something outside of just real estate, but I don't want to force people's hands. So we added a third day and made it optional. So we kind of said, listen, we know there's a lot of you in this room who are very curious about the future and other opportunities. Let's make that, you're already in Vegas, you're already making the travel plans and you're in your hotel bookings and all that kind of stuff. Let's give them an option. It can allow us as an event to grow a little bit, but also get more creative. And so sort of what I keep coming back to is saying to our core audience is, listen, you already have the gear. Most of the people that attend this conference are very well versed in the technical side, the photography, you know, doing all the actual technical work. If you have the gear and you have the technical know-how and you have the contacts and you have a business established, who wouldn't be interested in some additional streams of income? So why aren't you dropping a card off at that hotel or that retail shop or pursuing construction companies or industrial opportunities, that kind of thing? So day 3, we decided to add, like I said, it's been on my mind for years. We took the plunge this year, decided to make it happen. And again, it's an optional opportunity for those who are curious. The cool thing about it, this conference has always been geared, kind of like Reed's podcast, more towards the business. Because if you want to be like, if you want to learn the technical stuff, there's unlimited opportunity online. Most of it's free and most of it's amazing. We don't need you to book a flight and go all the way to Vegas and pay for hotel rooms to come and listen to someone talk about a camera on stage for half an hour. Get that stuff from home. What we want to do is create the opportunities that you can't get from home, which is meeting some of these industry leaders, whether they're company people, whether they are talented folks like the Brandon Barries of the world or any of the people that are showing up to speak at the conference. And then most importantly is connecting with other industry members. I tell this story over and over, and I've never explained who the person was, but I sat down with Reed 2 years ago for a beer, and they were just scaling their team. And I had been debating it for a long time. And talking with Reed for about an hour, hour and a half, literally saved me 6 months of pain because I was able to kind of see how they started that process. And I eventually did, I don't even know if I've ever admitted this to you, Reed, so I don't like to give you very much credit, but take it when you get it, right, buddy?
Yeah.
But to me, I can speak to it with conviction because I created this event because I am my own audience. I'm a high volume shooter. I feel the same pain everybody else does. So that's how this whole thing was born. And then I've lived it myself where I've learned so much from other attendees. And that is why we've doubled down so much on the networking side of things. So bringing it all back to day 3, we listened to the audience over the last 5 years. There was a demand for it. We didn't want to force anybody, but we wanted to make it an option, which we did. And I'm kind of happy to say we've had about a 75 to 80% of the people that are coming for day 1 and day 2 have opted in for day 3. And regardless if you're curious or not in stepping outside of, like I say, the hardcore real estate, you're going to learn from these people, from business sense, from how to deal with clients. There's going to be all kinds of intangibles that maybe don't apply directly to real estate, but they sure do when it comes to business and marketing and just kind of common sense and strategy.
Yeah, and I want to throw one more little thing in on that for the day 3. Going back to our podcast, we had Matt Anderson on, who is going to be speaking at the conference, and he's actually, I think, the kind of bridge speaker between day 2 and 3. So he's on day 2, but he made the point that if you have a successful real estate media business, and I think every single person who is going to the conference probably does, at some point. Even if you're not soliciting work from these people, you are going to be asked by a designer, a hotel, a commercial, a corporate, any of that stuff. You will be asked at some point to do that work. And do you want to have the know-how of even what to charge for that, or even how to approach that shoot a little bit differently? And so even if you're not asking for it, it will still come to you. So it's really good to be prepared.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's why I keep forgetting to mention that. That was one of the things Matthew said to me when we were talking last year. And I mean, like you said, that opportunity is going to come your way. It'd be nice to be somewhat prepared, right? He put it in such a perfect way. He was a big part of the reason that we actually kind of decided we were going to wait a year. And after talking to him, I'm like, that makes such good sense. Let's just do it. We've already got the venue. Let's make it happen. Thanks, Reed.
No, it makes a lot of sense. We'll spend a bit of time, the iGuide Lunch and Learn around that as well with our offerings in the last year. being able to deliver, drawing packages and these different types of floor plans that often are used by that same group, whether it's retailers, in the design build space, in the construction space. It is, to your point earlier, Brandon, another additional revenue stream that a lot of iGuide operators are currently going after with their existing camera. And that'll be part of our conversation at the iGuide Lunch and Learn, which we're excited to highlight and bring forward. Before we kind of talk industry, both of your opinions on, first time person going to PMRE, any tips, anything you want to share to the first timers that are attending?
I got tips. I got tips.
Whatever.
Oh,
Opposite
yeah.
reads.
Yeah, exactly. Don't drink as much as I have, because that will end badly for you. I think the biggest tip is just to come in with an open mind and an open heart. I mean, that may be cheesy, but I think not only open to what you're going to see on stage, but open to meeting people. And I know a lot of us in this industry as photographers, and it's kind of what I spoke to a couple of years ago, is that we are lonely. It can be a lonely job to be out there all the time. You're just driving around to shoot after shoot after shoot, just hanging out with realtors and oh God. And then, having, just all this time in the car, and then you're in vacant houses, what you really can miss is camaraderie, is human connection. And maybe some of us, we enjoy that because of our personalities, right? I think this job can attract some people who are a little more introspective, or at least not super social. But if you can come to PMRE and with a mindset of, I just want to grow and I want to interact with human beings who actually feel your pain, this is the perfect place to do it. And I've found that also there's so much, if you go into the Facebook groups and stuff like that, there can be so much toxicity around, but at PMRE it's just not there. And everyone is so supportive and so kind, and it's also just a fun time. And also just learn so much from the person right next to you. And as Brandon spoke to, we had a beer for an hour, and he got rid of 6 months of pain for 1 month, for 1 hour of pain of sitting with me. So that was, and that can happen to anyone who comes to the conference.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. I would say sort of the same thing. There's a lot I can say at a real detailed level in terms of where to go, what to see, who to talk to, that kind of thing. But in general, I remember back in 2018 when we were planning and when I was having a lot of conversations, everybody was telling me, Brandon, you are out of your mind. Have you been on Facebook? Have you seen these groups? Do you really want 300 of these maniacs in one room? And I remember just kind of thinking, wow, I mean, that's not our industry. That's social media in general. I got a little more faith in humanity. So let's give it a crack.
Sure.
And I thought that we would have some issues, but I can say with 100% conviction, from the second things got rolling in Vegas in 2019 to the end, it was nothing but positive. Everybody checks their ego at the door. You got guys in there, single operators making $1 million a year. You've got guys in there with teams of 400 photographers who are willing to sit down with you and talk to anybody. Everybody checks their ego. There's things we've done to design a lot of interaction. We don't have reserved seating. Everything's general. So I would just encourage people to, like Rhys said, come with an open mind, attend as much of the stuff that's happening as possible, whether it's lunch and learns, workshops, the main room, the vendor lounge. Don't go and hang out in your hotel room. Spend your time meeting people. And even if you feel like, because here's the thing, one of the blessings and the curses of being at year 6, there's a lot of people who are coming back who've been there. So you'll see a lot of people hugging and high-fiving who haven't seen themselves for a year. This is their annual get-together. Doesn't mean they don't want to hang out with you. We see it every year. The groups grow, get bigger and bigger. And there's one night Thursday where we really don't have anything planned. People are going to be going to the strip for dinner. They're going to be going out together. There's all kinds of stuff. So just be present and don't be afraid to invite yourself or introduce yourself. it just like the bottom line, like Reese said, come with an open mind and be very willing to connect with people, because they're going to be willing to connect with you. And if you put yourself out there, you'll benefit so much more than if you kind of hang by yourself. And I won't give too much away, but we've implemented a couple things this year to sort of help initiate some networking. There is tons of networking opportunity, but we've come up with a couple ideas that aren't cheesy and not uncomfortable. I'm an introvert myself. So when I go to an event and they're like, we're going to do an icebreaker, I'm the first guy to bolt to my room, right? I'm
Mind
like,
the door.
not happening. But at the same time, I recognize when you've got someone new coming and they see someone that's been there for 5 years, keep in mind, we got people coming from all over the world, right?
Yeah.
So there's different cultures, there's different levels of experience. You never know who you're going to meet when you just bump into somebody and introduce yourself. And like I said, we've got a few things planned to help kickstart that without it being awkward. But bottom line, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't get stressed out. Don't get concerned about the crowd, because it can be busy. It can get hectic.
Yeah.
Find a seat. If there's a spot available, just ask if it's taken. If not, sit down and introduce yourself. Just take advantage of the connections that can be made, because I have literally made the best friends in my life from this conference over the last 6 years.
And I want to throw in one more thing is
Love
that too, it's for anyone who's thinking of attending and you're watching this webinar, it's actually not just a bunch of like white guys in black t-shirts, although those people do exist. There are, all of the communities and, all of the diversity of the owners of these real estate media businesses. So there's so many women there, people of color, different sexual orientations, everything. We're all one, and everyone gets along, and it's great. And, we have all different political spectrums, but all that stuff gets left at the door. It's really just about coming together. And and sometimes having that podcast, and Mark and I are just a couple white guys, it's like you want to make sure that it is inclusive of everybody, because there are so many people out there. And that's one of the best things about it, is you get to learn from people who look at the world a little differently than you do. And so it's such an opportunity to put yourself in their shoes and get a perspective that you would have never had by yourself.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Yeah, I can say the 3 black shirts say we're not planned, but here we are.
Yeah.
No, I can definitely vote for that. I mean, me joining last year, I was relatively an iGuide for 6 months, maybe a bit more. Prior to that, I mean, I'm not a real estate photographer. Joining Planetary and iGuide, my background was not in prop tech. So I loved it. I think I thought it was fantastic to be able to network. It was a very opening, welcoming type of group. I was able to learn a lot through industry and best practices, and hear from others with how they're growing their businesses. Yeah, it stood out. I've attended a lot of conferences and trade shows in the past, but it was a great experience the whole time in Vegas. If we were to shift gears a bit, maybe a bit less about PMRE. I mean, both of you are industry veterans. Over the last 6 months to a year, what is a trend or two in real estate media that you'd want to talk to or highlight that you're seeing, you're hearing about, you're watching, kind of got your eye on?
There's a few things. AI is there, obviously, and we're all wondering how it's going to play out. And it's not quite there for photo editing yet, but there's a lot of stuff you can do on the business back end or writing or whatever. So we're all watching that. And then I think the thing that I've noticed, and it's really just been building and building and building over the last few years, is the proliferation of video. I mean, it's just video is more and more important, and video is always evolving. And so we have to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game, and with reels and realtors on camera and all the creative things you can do, and how we can leverage our position to make video and to maximize revenue from that video. And then also it is the evolution. Not only is it like not evolution, but it's the progression as real estate media professionals. Because remember, what we do is we do not, from my perspective, we actually don't market real estate. We market realtors. At least in the how real estate is done in the US and Canada, we are servicing the agents, not the property. We shoot property to market agents, right? So we are, I think, as an industry, looking at how we can better serve our clients, right? And it's not just taking pictures of houses. So that's why we're all dipping, not all, but many people are dipping their toes into branding photography and into hospitality or into commercial retail, all that kind of stuff. But getting people in your photos and being the one stop that people can come to for photographic marketing materials is, I think, key to growing our businesses. And I know Brandon's been on the leading edge of that. I mean, case in point is Kelsey Curtis coming in last year and giving a presentation on it. Now she's back to host this year. That's not what the conference is about, but my God, that's opened our eyes. And in fact, at Upmarket Media, we're just in the process of launching our branding program. And so far, it's like we've had a lot of interest in it. And I think it's going to be a big revenue driver for us.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Reed said. At the end of the day, one of the overarching things that's so interesting to me, I remember planning this thing back in 2018 and still convincing realtors that they should not be using their phones for photos. And that was a hard sell. And year one, we were PFRE, photography for real estate. Fast forward a few years, we rebranded PMRE because it no longer reflected what this industry or what most of our businesses were all about. If you go back to 2019, I'd say 90% of the people in that room were single operators taking photos of listings. You show up this year, it's flipped completely. 10%, maybe 10% of the room is photography only. And there's still lots of opportunity for those folks. But in general, the thing that's so exciting to me, I mean, there's so much that's exciting, but more than anything, we are a legitimate, serious industry now. And we are a major player in one of the oldest, largest industry in the history of the world, which is real estate. We are a massive part or huge cog in that wheel. And I've had some companies over the past couple of years, big companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, who have kind of pulled me aside casually and just kind of said, one, I won't say who it was, but I literally got told, kind of feel like our business owes your industry a bit of an apology. And I kind of chuckled and I said, well, I'd love to hear why. And they kind of elaborated. And the truth, but what it boiled down to was they've used us over the years. When I say us, I mean the real estate photographers / media creators as a conduit to the bigger market, which might be realtors or homeowners or whatever that looks like. But over time, they've realized, and it's become more and more true in the last year or two, especially, is that no amount of money or clout can replace the relationships that we, in general, as media creators, have with our audience, or with our clients, I should say, with our realtors. I've had so many people come to my little market with some kind of an offering, whether it's a discounted price or a new piece of technology. And instead of them winning my clients over, my clients call me and say, hey, this person just offered this. Is this something we should be interested in? And can you provide it for us? We have that trust. So number one, we are now part of an absolutely legit industry that the real estate world cannot live without. Number two, our own personal positioning and roles in that industry are critical because we fostered those relationships over the years and we steward them consistently. So from a high level business perspective, to me, that's what's the most exciting, because that shows me that this industry has a massive, massive future. Of course, there's challenges along the way. Don't want to get into the details of, some of those. There's all kinds, there's consolidations happening. There's all the other challenges that you see in every other business that weren't real to us a few years ago because we weren't at a point where we were on the radar as much as we are now. Some people take that as a bit of an insecurity. I take it as a massive compliment to our industry, and it gets me really excited. So from a high level business perspective, that's how I kind of feel about things. When it comes down to sort of the day-to-day stuff, everything Reed said, I agree completely with. AI is definitely here to stay. It's definitely going to change too. It's not kind of, last year, we've tried to talk about AI for a couple of years, but up until this point, it's been more like theory. We will cover some theory, but from somebody who actually is in the industry and kind of sees how it might impact us directly over time. But the idea of AI, like replacing us in some ways, potentially, in other ways, if we leverage it properly, it'll just supercharge our business and our efficiency and our quality. And ultimately that will help the real estate industry as well. I just took a couple notes here while I was listening to Reed. Oh, the other thing too that's really become clear over the last couple of years, and especially in the last year, is our role with our clients. Again, we're not just their photographer, we're not just their videographer anymore. Most of them are finding us, or we're establishing a relationship where we're genuinely their marketing partner.
Yeah.
And to Reed's point, yes, we want to make homes look great, but at the end of the day, the reason we want to make the homes look great is because it makes the realtors look great, which helps them get the next listing, which helps us get the next job. And we're at a point now, especially with video taking off so much, where we really have to learn that it's not about what makes us look cool or what we nerd out about because we're creatives. It's about what resonates with the end user, which in our world is going to be the buyer, right? The buyer is happy. That means the realtor gets the business. Then ultimately we get the business. So that's a big one this year. I'm starting to find Devin's going to actually touch on this year. And he showed me a couple of videos to illustrate sort of his perspective on this. And you watch these little real estate videos and at the end of it, you're kind of like, you literally almost get choked up. You're like, this is so different. You're not just documenting a home. You are literally pulling at the heartstrings of the potential buyer that's got a brand new family. So it's getting much
more of a story, eh?
Yeah. And I think the point I'm trying to make is just the marketing side of what we do. We're not just documenters anymore.
Yeah.
We are creating story and really finding a way to help that realtor, or, if you go a few steps further, that hotel or that restaurant, really connect and resonate with their end user. We're becoming a much savvier marketing partner in our industry than just being documentarians, if that makes sense. And really that's kind of the biggest trend that I've seen changing this year.
And the continued value of 3D products and floor plans, of course.
Right. Of course. Sorry, I thought that was.
I appreciate the plug, Reed. I appreciate it. Of course, right?
Yeah.
You know what, though? I will say one more thing to that, actually, because I've had lots of conversations this year, and I've said that PMRE this year, in the past, first couple of years, we always ended up taking on a theme, but it almost happened organically. Sometimes it wasn't a theme that we really wanted it to take, and so we learned from that, and so we've tried to sort of focus on what we want the theme to be. And this year, there's no question it's evolving, that technology is kind of going to be the theme of PMRE 2024, not so much from like our own presentation perspective or perspectives, even though we are touching on a lot of it, more so on the conversations and the curiosities that the audience has. And there are one of the things that we're so fortunate of with PMRE is now companies are starting to use PMRE as an opportunity to make announcements, launch new products, introduce new things to our audience, that kind of thing, which is very exciting for us. And I can say there's a few new sort of products and companies that we've never heard of up until this year that are going to be in attendance to introduce some new technologies and some new opportunities. So to me, that's also very exciting. And again, you can look at it two ways. It can be intimidating, but it can also be empowering depending on how you want to look at it, right? So I think I've seen more change in the last year and a half than I have in the first 5 years combined, which again, I find personally extremely exciting.
No, so true. Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, marketing and trying to reach an audience of real estate photographers, PMRE is the flagship event of the year that we mark in our calendars at the beginning of the year and always want to be able to highlight a new technology, new feature, new something where you've got the top photographers across North America and some joining from around the world, in one place with this captive audience. So I think it makes sense for sure. Kind of one more question, then we can wrap things up, being mindful of time. If you had to pick one thing to recommend to those attending this year, what would it be?
I mean, like, are we talking specific to PMRE or?
Yeah, you can talk Vegas if you want, but yeah.
Well, you know what? Oh man, because I mean, obviously with the way we design it is, other than the lunch and learns, nothing overlaps. So if you haven't, there's a couple things. If you haven't, there's 2 workshops that still have a couple spots. Number one is the Wayne Tony Fraser 2-day luxury, which everybody that's ever attended has raved about it. They've sold out every workshop up until this point. The 3 guys together are phenomenal. It's incredible value for your money. Reed mentioned Alex, who her title is, I think it's becoming a photography publicist hybrid. And I don't know if that even does, the more I think about it, I'm not sure that does justice. She's a master. It ties into what we just talked about with marketing our clients. She's a master at finding ways to get attention for yourself and your clients without spending a bunch of money. So to me, her workshop, a full day with her, I mean, my wife wants to take it and she's not even in photography. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I think that's a great opportunity. Other than that, like I said, come with an open mind, attend as much as you possibly can. Don't hide in your hotel room, come to the social events, come to the lunches, the dinners, that kind of thing. And then if you want to venture off, Thursday night's a night off, check out the Sphere. As a creative, I've been there twice now. You cannot go to
Yeah.
Vegas without making an effort to go at least check out the Sphere. They do have one show that's very affordable. It's kind of their resident video that shows off the technical ability of that building. And it's just, I went down a few weeks ago for a show specifically because I wanted to see the production just to give me some more inspiration for what we do with PMRE. And every time I leave that place, I'm just kind of floored. So check it out. If you have an opportunity, check that out.
Yeah, I saw you two there play live last winter, and then now they have the movie that's the immersive concert event. But it's playing on Sunday and I think Saturday, so it's not going to be on Thursday night. The one free night, I was like, oh man, I don't want to see it. But my suggestion, it kind of we already really touched on it, but I think it bears reiteration. It is, don't miss the person next to you at PMRE. Make sure that you talk to people that is, for all of the amazing content that Brandon produces for this and that the speakers give. It's really the connections with your fellow real estate photographers and people that is the thing that will make your business better and make your life better.
Yeah, and I'm going to put just the cherry on top for that, Reed, because you're spot on. Going back to the point earlier that you can spend unlimited amount of time on your computer at home, learning whatever you possibly can. We like to do or try to do the things that you can't do from home. And if you had to boil it down to one thing, what's the one thing that we can do that nobody else out there has ever done? And that's bring 350 people, that like-minded folks from around the world, into the same building for 3, 4, 5 full days. So take advantage of it while you're there, and don't be afraid to approach speakers, and don't be afraid to approach sponsors. Everybody's there with the same mindset. We're all in the same playing field when we're there, which is fun.
But if you approach me, you better order me a drink.
I was just going to say, don't come empty-handed with Reed.
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
Gentlemen, that was great. Thank you for spending the last hour with me. I'm excited. I'm stoked. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Very much looking forward to going back. Any last words from either of you that you want to share?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Of course, I think everyone in this industry owes Brandon a thank you. I think he's done more than anyone to kind of build up our industry, to build that profile where, we are that valuable cog. I mean, collectively we've done it, but I think Brandon has really been able to focus it and kind of brand our industry. And then, I also very specifically, Skylar, I want to thank you. Thank you for having me on today. And, iGuide has been partnering with Upmarket Pod to bring the road to PMRE episodes this year. And that's been such a great relationship. And we at the podcast really appreciate your support. And, we look forward to hanging out with you in Las Vegas.
Can't wait.
Yeah, same on my end there with you, both of you guys, with Upmarket helping us get as much exposure as we possibly can. It is still, although it's a very legit industry, it's still very niche. So it's not as easy to kind of reach the folks that we want to make sure that anybody that wants to or should be in the room has the opportunity to be there. iGuide, you guys have been there from day one. Without the financial support of our sponsors, I would be wasting half my time worrying about dollars and cents rather than the experience. And then obviously to the audience, I'm not going to lie. We eat, sleep, and breathe this thing, but there are sleepless nights. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of risks. But when we see everybody together having fun, high-fiving, seeing each other for the first time in a year, it sounds so cheesy, but it's the truth. It makes it all worthwhile. As soon as we leave, we're always just like, oh, that's why we do this. That's why we go through 360 days of hell each year for the 5 days of glory. So thank you to all of you guys. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you both. And to all the audience that watch this live and that will listen to it, thank you. Thank you for joining and taking the time. And we'll see you in a few short weeks in Vegas.
All right, let's do it.
Guys.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you guys soon.